Hi again, curling fans. Do you hear that sound? The sound of granite sliding over pebbled ice. A curling season is upon us. Wonderful to be talking to you. And you know what? For the first time in decades, the Queen of Hearts, Jennifer Jones, not taken to the ice. Of course, she announced her retirement from the four-person game last year. You'll never meet a more fierce competitor, a six-time Scotties champion, world champion, Olympic champion. Jen, you won everything there is to win in curling. So wonderful to see you. And let's start right there. Are you missing it? Is it weird not to be ramping up for a curling season when everybody else is?
It is definitely a little bit weird. I've been really busy just on other projects. I haven't spent as much time as I thought, watching line scores and feeling that ache of wanting to be on the ice. But I know that will happen as things in other parts of my life settle down. With the points bet being on this weekend, I'm sure the TV will be on. Our daughters love to watch curling. So we'll be watching curling and it will be a little bit weird to not be out there, but I'm really content in my decision.
Yeah, the season of champions is upon us. I know I was watching some of it. Of course, this PointsBet Invitational in Calgary, one and done. If you lose, you're out. It's pretty high stakes, Jen. Before we get into breaking down the season, I just wanted to ask you, because it is early. It is still September. But the curling season just seems to start earlier and earlier. I know the international teams were on the ice in August. At this point of the year, was there a sense of touch and feel and where you wanted to be? I mean, what should we be looking at this early in the season? And should we read too much into some of the early season results?
I don't think you should read too much into it. I know it was always hard for us, especially over the last little while with events in Asia and events in Europe starting even as early as July, that you would see your competitors on the ice getting points and really getting fine-tuned and feeling like you were behind. And not to say that Canadian teams can't go over to Asia and Europe, but we typically don't. So we will start a little bit later than a lot of the other teams that don't live in Canada. And it would always give me this sense of, oh, I just can't wait to get on the ice. I'm feeling like we're behind. We need to kind of catch up. But I don't think the early season results really dictate what's going to happen throughout the rest of the season. They could. I mean, you look at Rachel Homan, who's having a great start to the year. So that really, you probably are going to see them continue to do that. But for us, it was really, you want to peak for the slams. You want to make sure that you're getting better as the year goes on and ensure that you're peaking January, February, March when all the major championships happen.
Well, and you seem to do that better than perhaps anybody that ever played. So let's talk about Rachel Homan. You said it, and of course you were the last one to take on Rachel in the Scotties final. And those were, the game you played leading up to that was one of the greater games I can recall. That was outstanding stuff. But Jen, Rachel had a remarkable season. She defeated Tirinzoni in an early bonspiel. Is she the one to beat once again on the women's side this year? Is she setting the standard?
Yeah, they're a remarkable team and they're playing exceptionally well. They had a great start. They won that event. They stole actually 2 points to beat Silvana Tirinzoni's team. I think you look at them for sure. They're leading in almost every category. If you look at stats, they're just super consistent, making tons of big shots. But it's also Silvana Tirinzoni's team from Switzerland, multiple world champion and tons of experience. And Alina Petz at skip is, in my opinion, right up there with some of the best who's ever played. She just makes tons of shots. So you're going to see them. Gim from Korea is also, having a really good start and a really good season. But you really want to look at Rachel Homan's team and Silvana Tirinzoni. They're just one step ahead of everybody right now. And so everybody's playing a little bit of catch up.
In Canada, Jen, on the women's side, who else are you going to be keeping an eye on? From my perspective, it's going to be really interesting to see how Team Einarson responds. Of course, we're still awaiting what's going to unfold with the Brianne Harris situation. And then just the other day, we find out that Shannon Burchard is going to be out. So this was a team that was seemingly unstoppable. And now two of their players have question marks around them. So there's a lot for them to navigate. I wonder what you might expect from Team Einarson.
Yeah, Team Anderson is, it was definitely a challenge that they were faced with last year. And I thought they did a remarkable job of kind of overcoming that challenge, but they haven't seen the success that they were used to seeing. And that can get in your head. And it's just hard to get that confidence back. And they started the year, I think they played an event, and then Shannon wasn't able to play, and they've gotten some really good spares. I think Laura Walker's playing with them in the points bet, and then Dawn McEwen is going to play with them at the Slam. So they've got really good people to come in and fill those spots, but it's really not quite the same as having your team. So I think they have a little bit of an uphill battle, just trying to get that confidence back, getting in their groove while they await news and really still have some uncertainty as to what their future looks like.
You might know a little bit about how Dawn McEwen plays. That's a that's a nice fill-in. I haven't even been able to ask you, but Chelsea Carey taking over your old team. Just maybe some reaction to that.
Yeah, for sure. I've always loved Chelsea. I think she's got a passion for the game, almost like no other. She loves curling. She loves to play the game. She's not scared to have rocks and play. She just wants to be out there and is probably one of the biggest competitors I've ever played against. So I think she's going to bring that energy to the team. And uh, I don't think they're going to miss a step. They played one event only. They started a lot later than everybody else. They had, I think, some things going on this summer. So I think we're going to see them get better and better as the year goes on. But right now, I feel like they might be still a little bit rusty trying to get used to the new team. But they're definitely a team to watch with Team Anderson, Team Homan, definitely a team to watch in Canada.
We're going to talk about the men's side in a second. And of course, there was some dramatic news, never a dull moment in the curling landscape with Jacques Gauthier and Kevin Cooey parting ways. And then you saw Jacques Gauthier take to social media and said it wasn't a mutual parting. I got cut. That was pretty remarkable transparency. But I'm wondering, Jen, there were a number of times, not as many as what we're seeing now, but that you had different lineups. Maybe just a word on the importance of chemistry, because you see a lot of the European teams that have success not making a lot of changes. I think of Tirinzoni and I think of Nick Edin. I mean, they've been together for a long time. Just about the importance of chemistry, and knowing how people throw, reading the ice, knowing what people do in different situations.
I think there's pros and cons to it, Devin. You look at all the European teams or Asian teams, their programs almost dictate how their teams come together.
Mm.
It means Savannah Tirinzoni's teams probably put that team together themselves, but they're just a more limited pool of players. Where in Canada, we still have a lot, the pool is bigger to choose from. So you'll see a little bit, changing, just teams trying to figure out what their best lineup will be, how to create that magic. So I've always believed that team chemistry is very important in order to have success, but it's not necessary. It's just kind of that it makes it easier. You're spending a ton of time together. It makes it a lot easier to have success. And you look at the Glenn Howard team, I think they probably exemplified what team chemistry looked like and what everybody wanted. But then you can look at other teams that may not have necessarily gotten along as well off the ice, we'll say, but they seem to find a way to win on the ice. So you can have a mix of both. I don't think longevity is necessary. Sometimes having a new player gives you that spark and that excitement to train harder, to work harder, to try to create that magic all over again.
Well, a great perspective, and Kevin Cooey is going to have to find somebody to fill in at second. Of course, they're playing with three players. Hey, I don't know if you saw the other day Ryan Fry saying that maybe we need to think about a rule about whether or not teams should be able to play with three players. Do you have any thoughts on that, Jen?
I don't know why you wouldn't. It's been part of our game for so long, and but I don't want the game to move to three players. So it's just right now we're not in a position, I don't think, where we can require teams to travel with five people. It's just an added expense, and we're just not quite there in the game yet. We do that for major championships where I believe, should be required to have four players on the ice at major championships. But for our everyday, season where we're playing in bonspiels throughout the season, it just doesn't realistically make sense to not allow, in my opinion, three players on the ice. It's just not feasible to have that extra player and incur that expense for the extra player to go all the time.
Well, and to your point, it gets a little messy. If you write into a rule book or whatever extenuating circumstances, well, what does that entail? I mean, Guju wins a Brier because Nichols gets COVID, maybe somebody gets injured in the parking lot at a Bonspiel. I mean, where do you draw the line on extenuating circumstances, right?
Yeah, exactly. And who decides that? And
Mm,
how do you know where is that line? If you have, if one of my daughters got sick and I was at an event, I would have wanted to leave if I needed to. Is that extenuating circumstance, or
right.
is that so it becomes very complicated? And I do believe at major championships, the Canadian championships, the world championships, the Olympics, it should be a team of four. That's what curling is made around. And unless we want to change the three-person game, which I really don't, I hope we don't do.
No, we already have mixed doubles, and we'll get to that as we
Yeah.
wind down. Wonderful to be talking curling with Jennifer Jones. Hello to the curling fans. Let's move to the men's side of things. Brad Gushue continues to set the standard on the men's side. He's been so good for so long and is still getting it done, Jen. Is he the men's team to beat in Canada? Because he just seems to find a way. You see it, 3-3, 6 Brier titles in the last 8 years.
They're definitely the team to beat in Canada. There's no question. Their record speaks for itself. Brad himself is super consistent. The whole team is very consistent. They still continue to work very hard at the game. So they're getting better. I mean, as much as they won last year, they're still going to put the effort in to try to be even better, because as much as they're the team to beat in Canada, and not to say they're not the team to beat in the rest of the world, but the rest of the world is so talented with Nicodine, Schrawler's having a very good year this year. There's so much depth. Bruce Mowat. There's so many great teams that the Canadians have to beat. But I think in Canada, you look to Brad Gushue, but you also, Mike McEwen's team, who really made a late charge last year. They put a new team together. I'm a little biased because my husband, Brent Lang, coaches them, but they really did. They had a great Brier. They had a great season. And then they've started off the season with 2 wins. So, you can't count them out. And then also the new Brad Jacobs team, super talented players. It'd be interesting to see how that team comes together with just, a new skip, a new leader, and see how their season, kind of the trajectory goes. They started off, they made a quarter, but I would think that they're going to just keep getting better and better.
Jen, to that point about Brad Jacobs, I was talking to some people the other day about the fact that, of course, you won Olympic gold in the same place he won Olympic gold. We talk about you winning that gold a lot, but it almost feels like Brad Jacobs goes under the radar as an Olympic champion because they were so good for that 2013, the trials, those Olympics, but it's almost like we forget how good he's been, and now he joins this team, and it really feels like this could be it for these guys, right?
Yeah, I think so. And you look at Brad Jacobs had great teams over the years. They lost the trials final, I think, to Brad
Right,
Gushue.
right.
So he's always been in the mix, but he hasn't won. So his name hasn't been top front and center. They're in the mix. They make finals, they make semifinals. They're always ranked. He was always ranked very high. He decided to take some time off. And I think you're seeing a Brad Gushue who's come back because of the love of the game. He wants to be a part of a great team. He wants to work hard. And bottom line, he wants to win. And when Brad Jacobs wants to win, there's not very many people better. He's a tremendous shooter, a great hitter. He can throw it as hard as anybody, and but can also draw as well. And his team behind him has so much depth and consistency that there's no doubt we're going to see these guys, win some events and definitely be in the mix for pretty much everything.
I think it's going to be a remarkable season, of course, because we're getting closer to once again an Olympic trials. You know all about the pressure of that. Of course, you've retired, Jen, from the 4-person game, but not mixed doubles. And of course, they added the Olympic mixed doubles Olympic trials earlier in the calendar, so it takes place at the end of December. The clock is ticking, Jen. Where are you and Brent at on that journey, and what is a pathway? Because I know there's a mixed doubles Super Series happening, but I think there are still qualification spots up for grabs, and teams are scrambling at this point to get those points to try and make, I believe it's 16, get a spot at those trials.
Yeah, you know what? I find all the formats so complicated. I try not to I just focus on trying to get there. And Brent and I qualified at the end of last season. So we're in a lucky, fortunate spot that we're already in. And now it's just really trying to focus on how good can we be and trying to pick the events that fit the best into our schedule. We just played last weekend in Calgary. We played okay, started off a little shaky, and then just found ourselves just out of the playoffs, but really happy with just that start. I thought we got better as the weekend went on. And so it's going to be interesting. You're going to see teams fighting for points. But what we're not seeing, I don't believe, is a lot of the four-team players coming over and just playing mixed doubles as we've seen in the past and trying to qualify for the trials. We're seeing teams that have played mixed doubles throughout the whole quad, and you're seeing that level play in mixed doubles getting even harder. It's a tough event, and it's going to be interesting to see who qualifies for those 16 spots.
I love that you made that point because I did, as we wrap up, wanted to ask if you thought that mixed doubles was evolving in the way we all thought it would. You know, Johnny Moe and Rachel burst onto the scene. They win that first Olympic gold, and I think everybody felt like this was going to gain momentum. And from my perspective, Jen, it sort of has plateaued a little bit. But what I'm hearing from you is it sounds like people understand that you can't just step into mixed doubles and be great. I think there have been examples where we saw that can't be the case. But what I'm hearing from you is people want to specialize in this now, and it's raising the level of the game in the country.
1000%. Definitely in the country, we're seeing the level of play being raised. It's no longer a game of misses where you're taking advantage of a miss. It's a game of precision made shots. And if you don't make those shots, you're going to lose. And the level of talent around the world, Japan has two tremendous teams. Estonia, there's just the level of play around the world is exceptional. And it's going to be a hard fought Olympic trials for sure. But then once you win that Olympic trials, it's going to be hard fought to get on that podium. The teams are so talented. It actually blows me away how talented these teams are.
Yeah, mixed doubles, I mean, it's like white knuckle and you just hold on. I love it. It's fast paced. Can't wait to watch you take part in that. You're still such a part of the game, Jen. And I think you're going to continue to be. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to. I'm still not sure how it looks, but I'll definitely be around and a part of the game in some way. So when I have more, when I figure out exactly what that looks like, you'll be the first to know. But I'm definitely going to be involved in the game, whether it's coaching our daughter or just being involved with curling in some capacity. I'll be around.
And you know I want to be the first to know. The first of many conversations throughout the season. We are underway. JJ, thank you as always. We will see you at a rink sooner than later. And to the curling fans, welcome back to another year. Let the games begin. The roaring game is back, and we are buckled up for it.